How are all of you today?
And you? Perfect.
And I am well. Thank you for asking. Thank you. So, today we're talking about this idea of let her rip, right? Let her rip. Now, just because it can mean a variety of things. And those things that are making you laugh, we're not talking about those today. Just so you know. What I want us to do for a moment is, if you are willing, close your eyes for a moment. And what I want you to do is bring to your mind's eye anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. Whether that's a person that makes you feel uncomfortable, more specifically if it's a situation, an activity, such as public speaking. Does it make you feel uncomfortable? The idea of public speaking, the idea of jumping out of a plane, the idea of riding a roller coaster, the idea of starting your own business. What is it that makes you feel uncomfortable? And what I want you to do is bring it so clearly to your mind that you can feel that discomfort right now, even though you are not actively engaged in that activity. Feel what your body does when it's uncomfortable. See in your mind's eye what you tend to see when you feel uncomfortable. And then when you have it very clearly in both body and mind and feeling, inhale, exhale, and let it go. And then come back to the room. Now my question is, what if that which you desire to be, do, and have is in that place of discomfort? What if this idea of comfort zone is the idea that is holding us back? Next slide. What if it was the idea of discomfort that made Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. say, "But I have to"? What if it was the level of discomfort that made Mahatma Gandhi say, "But I have to"? Mother Teresa, Oprah Winfrey, Michael Bernard Beckwith, whoever it is that is out there doing things in the world, at some point there was something that said, but this is more comfortable. Being in that place of fear is more comfortable. We may not like it, but it's more comfortable. We've been in that for years. It's what we know. How many times have people said, the devil you know, finish the sentence, is better than the one you don't? Meaning the lie that we tell ourselves is better than, forget that, the devil, is better than the truth. The comfort zone that we have conditioned ourselves into believing is somehow better than stepping out on faith, stepping out in trust, stepping out in this knowingness, which goes back to this original idea of let her rip. So I want to share something with you to get your mind right on what we're talking about, because I saw some of y'all laughing when I said let her rip. So I'm going to set your mind straight for a second. So, let her rip. Anybody familiar with the Dixie Chicks? Okay, so the Dixie Chicks say, It's a lyric from a song. So if you're going to say goodbye, don't take all day and night. Let her rip, let it fly. Let her rip is an idiom, to let it go, to start it up. It's often used as an imperative, to do something without inhibition or restraint, typically with great enthusiasm or force. This teaching says we are open at the top. Then why is not our every word, our every action, letting Spirit rip? Letting Spirit rip through the foundation of whatever lies we tell ourselves. Letting Spirit rip through the illusion that says you're not good enough, you're not tall enough, you're not short enough, you're not thin enough, you're not dark enough, you're not light enough, you're not rich enough, you're not something enough. Let Spirit rip through all of that stuff that we have carried and allowed to be the conditions of our lives. Let Spirit rip straight through it, so that only that which is truth, that which is light, that which is love be present. What does it take for us to let it rip? What does it take for us to say, enough of the old, enough of the status quo, enough of the comfort zone? Because I can guarantee you, everyone, no matter what they're doing, there is still some level of discomfort. I do this pretty much every Sunday. I do this pretty much every Sunday. Pretty much. But there are still moments when because the drive to wherever I'm speaking, it's music on. I have to meditate, because if I don't, that monkey mind that's behind me, give me a banana, give me a banana, give me a banana. That monkey mind is always there telling me what I need to be doing and how much I should be afraid. Breathe. Here's a banana, leave me alone. We all are going to have moments of, I love roller coasters, but that does not mean the moment it goes ka-clink, oh, snap, oh, there's no turning back now. Because once you're locked in, they don't let you out. They laugh at you. We're locked into this thing called life. There is no turning back. Even those people who, for whatever reason, have said enough is enough, and they have surrendered their life through suicide, life does not end. They are not dead. You don't get out of this thing called life. There is no escape. God is going to forever be God in expression, living that thing called life forever. Clink, clink, clink. There is no getting out. So while we are in these body temples experiencing this, whatever we are calling my life, why not live it to the fullest possible degree? That first slide says, let's read it together, where it says, life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, wow, what a ride. The fact that I can see your faces, I know that there is a dream, there is a goal, there is an aspiration, there is something that inspiration is here to live, to be as you, or I wouldn't see you. You wouldn't be here. The fact that God individualized itself, the fact that God incarnated itself in, through, and as each and every one of you, says that you are here to do God's business. Because that's all there is God's business. So the question is, how are you going to step up to the plate? How are you going to live that life? How are you going to let her rip and say, I am here to shine and to shine brightly. I am here to love and to love fully. I am here to forgive to the degree that I understand that there is nothing that needs to be forgiven. I'm going to let her rip to that degree. That there is nothing that can stop me. Because there's nothing that can stop God. So when the news comes on and I see something that stands to the contrary, I'm going to let truth rip right through it. I'm going to understand that there is a power and a presence for good in the universe that is the universe, and not just that I can use it, but it is me. It is using me. It is being me. And out into the world, I set these ripples forward. So there is no government system that can defeat God. There is no thing called racism that can defeat God. Sexism that can defeat that messed up. That can defeat God. There is nothing ultimately. Now, yes, we experience these things, but are they the end all, the be all, the most powerful thing that there is? No. Not when we stand on this truth. Not when we move from that presence. And that's the presence that says, in the same way, anybody in here ever been to the ER? Okay. Anybody in here ever watch ER? Or The Good Doctor or any of the medical shows? Okay, so you have a concept of what an ER is. Do you understand that there are physicians in there who have read books upon books and taken classes upon classes, and still something will come into their ER that they have never read about, never seen? What? Don't know what to do with it. But what they do is they go to this place called truth that says there's bleeding. Stop the bleeding. I don't know what the rest of this stuff is. But I'm going to go with what I know, and what I know is there's bleeding, stop the bleeding, because that bleeding is not natural. Reconnect this. That I know I can do. So when we see the ER happening on the news, do what we know to do as the triage. Fix what we know how to fix. Bandage what we know how to bandage. But ultimately, as a physician, we know that there is a principle called health. Because if a doctor didn't know that there was such a thing called health, why put a cast on a bone? Why? Because somewhere they know that there is a principle where the body will regenerate, where the body will heal, where the body will do what the body is supposed to do. Well, if we know that the body is simply God in human form, a concretized demonstration of God, and we know that we are ultimately physicians, meta-physicians, then we also know that when an emergency shows up for us, we have a divine opportunity to let her rip, let truth rip. That we can take the divine suture and stitch. We can take whatever we need to cast so that things can mend and things can heal. We know that we have this power, but we prefer to be comfortable. Physician, heal thyself. Are we doing the work that is necessary to heal ourselves, or are we more comfortable with the woulda, coulda, shouldas that were handed down from generation? The ideas that say, once a whatever, always a whatever. Once a slave, always a slave. Once an abuser, always an abuser. And I understand the human aspect of that. Once an addict, always an addict. I understand the human aspect of this phrase. But if we as metaphysicians are not going to let go of that stuff, knowing that it is only factual on a certain level of vibration, but it is not the truth, then we will never expand beyond this finite understanding of, but there's me and there's David, and we are two separate individuals. Rather than we are connected in ways that neither of our human minds will ever comprehend, because there is only one. If we want to get to that level, where we are able to move forward and do similar things like Jesus or Gandhi or King or whomever. Mr. Rogers, right. Fred McFeely Rogers said, make kindness attractive.
Yes. Yes.
Make kindness attractive. Are we standing in the mirror? Because many of us, we got get up today to come to church. You know, we get done up to go to work. We get done up to go on dates. We get done up. But do we get done up to live our lives? Do we get our Sunday best on when we are feeling our Wednesday worst? Do we put on the whole armor of that which we know is divine so that we can live our lives to the best? I came that you may have life abundantly. Are we living that? Are we not willing to let her rip and live that life? Are we content to play it small, to hide our lamp under a bushel? Hell, some of us extinguish the light altogether because how dare I let someone... I don't want people coming over here trying. Confucius said, those who have knowledge, those who have a light, must share their knowledge by letting others light their candle from yours. You can't do it now. Leave me alone. To whom much is given, much is required. If I have a light and Deletta doesn't, and she comes over and she says, Reverend Ray, can I? Nope. My light's out too. Sorry. Oh, shoot. Is that how we're living our lives? Building walls to keep people away rather than making kindness attractive. We should, if we are living this philosophy, and I mean living it, I mean Carpe Diem, suck the bone dry, living it, then we should be walking down the street and people should see us and be like, ooh, there's something. You know, I'm like, normally I'm not attracted to people like, but I want to know that like there's something that makes people want to come talk to us. There's something that makes people want to bump into us by accident, and even though it ain't an accident. They're going to want to touch us because the same reason that woman was like, if I can just get to the hem of his garment, I know that I will be made whole. And there is something in them that says, I don't feel whole, but I can see that they are. They're not going to have the words for it, but they know at a deep cellular level that there is something that you have. You have the divine prescription for that which ails them. They don't even know it. They don't need to know it consciously. They know it at a subatomic, subconscious level. That spirit is saying, come home. Come unto me. Those who are weary and heavy laden, come unto me. And that is the energy that we have the opportunity to give to the world.
Yes, sir.
If we are willing to let her rip. So, you know, there's this gentleman that Harry mentioned by the name of, what's his name? Ernest Holmes. Just saying. So there's this amazing book that he wrote called, well, they changed the name now. It's The Creative Life. You familiar with it? Okay, so let's see. Where do I want to start? Bear with me for a second, because I wrote down so many things. And actually, it's this thing called life. That's the one I'm reading from. So, page 7, he says, Jesus possessed a transcendent power. Have you ever asked yourself, why can't I perform these same miracles? Why can't I live a life of magic? Jesus consciously brought the invisible power of life, which is God, to bear upon his environment. He consciously brought the invisible power of life, which is God, to his life experience. Are we calling that which we see? Are we calling it good? Are we calling it God? Or are we still labeling men, women, and children as wrong, bad, and evil? My father spent 25 to 8, 7, just shy of 30 years in a penitentiary, long before I was born. My father is considered an ex-convict, but he did not live as an ex-convict. He did not live in that prisoner mindset so that when he got out, he was not bound by. And the only reason was because while he was incarcerated, he did the work to keep his mind free. I didn't know any of this when he was teaching me this stuff as a child, but in hindsight, looking back, long after he had made his transition, and I was going through this moment of, woe is me. I wish I could have known this while the man was still alive. But I had this realization, that's what he was teaching me. That we are never truly bound. We are never truly imprisoned. We are never truly captive by the grave, because on the third day, we always have the opportunity to raise again. We always have the opportunity to resurrect. So yes, there may have been abuse as a child. Do you choose to live in the death of, or do you choose to resurrect as a new being who is no longer that? Yes, there is rape. Yes, there is segregation and racism and homophobia and Islamophobia. Yes, all of the, but do you choose to willingly step into the prison cell of, close the door, lock it, and give someone else the key? Or do we choose to live, move, and have our beingness as individuals who know who and what we are, so that we might develop that transcendent power that Jesus had right here, right now. So back to Uncle Ernest. Let's go with, the inward ear of Jesus was in tune with the divine harmony. His inward eye looked upon a spiritual universe. His human consciousness was transmuted into divine understanding as he sought for and found his union with life, his union with God. Are we tuning our eyes, our ears, our hearts, our minds to be able to hear only the harmony of God, to see a spiritual universe? Because the moment we stop seeing only physicality, treatment must work. But for as long as we think that this stuff that we see is separate from that which God is, that this piano is not spiritual stuff, that this binder, this wall, these pants are not spiritual stuff, that this body, these eyes, these ears, this that the liver and kidneys are not spiritual stuff. The moment we can see that and know that, treatment works. The mind works. But if we see separation, then we are not abiding by the divine principle that knows. We are not able to live, move, and have our beingness. So the challenge is, when things show up to the contrary, when things show up that say, you, really? You think you can start your own business? You really want to write a book? How dare you think you're so good that you can't? The moment that voice arises in us, because it's going to, we live in this thing surrounded also by the ethers of mass consciousness. And that mass consciousness carries the memory that says, people of color, what? That's in this mass consciousness. That's why you can turn on the average television show and you see, oh, there's one. Mass consciousness. But when we align with what we know, then we see more people of color. We see more women of power. We see what we know as truth must show up in our life experience. Are we willing to let her rip? Are we willing to stand in this place that declares and proclaims simply by our beingness, that our life showing up says, I have the audacity to know. I have the audacity to love, even when those who I love may not love me back. I love them anyway. One of the other things that Ernest says, talk amongst yourselves for a second. The one who would heal hate must first learn to love. The one who would live a beautiful life must commune with beauty. The one who would give happiness must first become happy. The one who would heal a sense of loss must first have arrived at an inner realization of wholeness. If we want to see it, we have to be it. There's a class that I'm taking based on the teachings of Judge Troward, right? And two things that the instructor says in the class, and I'm going to leave you with this, is to remind us that there is a reciprocal relationship between us and spirit, right? The way Troward explains it is, spirit involves itself in, and then we evolve and give back to spirit. So there is this divine yin-yang between. Spirit gives, and we give back. The law of circulation, right? When we allow ourselves to become stagnant, it's sort of like spirit is giving us infinite breath, right? Like we breathed this morning. No one counted these breaths, correct? Did anybody wake up and say, I need to save up? I might need these later. Did anybody do that? I'm just checking because maybe somebody here did. But isn't it interesting that if someone did try to save the breath for later, but do we not try to live later? I'm going to wait until I retire to enjoy my life. I'm going to wait until I'm married or dating to enjoy I'm going to save it for later. But while I'm saving it for later, I'm not able to breathe now. That makes no sense, but we do it every day. When we yield and surrender to the reciprocal nature of the divine, there is always the give and the give and the give. Spirit gives and I give. Spirit gives and I give. Spirit gives and I give. There is only this divine law of circulation. And the other thing we talk about in this class was the idea of, and I want to find this specific exact word, the personal factor. The idea that we have to understand that it is our consciousness. We choose how we are going to use this thing called mind. We choose what thoughts we are going to hold on to. And we may think we don't, but we do. Because how many times have we heard it said, someone can give you a compliment over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and you're, yeah, thank you. Let them say one bad thing about that dress, that hat, that something, and it's like, ooh,
How about that?
wow, I'm going to save that I'm going to put that in the bag. And we hold on to it, so that the moment we start to feel good, wait a minute, remember that was ugly. We breathe back in life into our bodies from whatever that negative is. We have personal power in this. Physician, heal thyself. We get to choose. There's a power for good in the universe. It is what you are. And you are using it. Let's treat. Once again, anchoring in this one mind, this breath, right here, right now. Surrendering. I speak this word knowing that God is all there is. By whatever name it is called, source, love, joy, omnipotence, magnificence, beauty, light, whatever it is, there is only that which it is. And that which God is, right here, right now, God in me, God as me, God is me. And what I know is that this truth is not simply my truth, it is the truth for everyone in this room. Every member and every attendee of this sacred center and centers and churches and synagogues and temples, ashrams, supermarkets, food, soup kitchens, and prisons the world over. God is all there is. Love in human form. Light, concretized, and called human. Knowing that it is all there is, these words say that I know. Wholeness, perfection, and peace exist right now in, through, and as all. And what I know is that as I lay hold of, as I lay claim of, as I allow my consciousness to be aware of this infinite, all-encompassing power, that love must show up in my life. Light must shine forth in my life. That which is wholeness must make itself demonstrated in my life. That all crooked places must be made straight. All that is broken must be restored to wholeness. Because there is that one mind, and in that mind, nothing can truly be broken, be diseased, be in disharmony, in discord. And so what I know is that which is divine and right harmony, divine and right perfection of joy, love, wealth, abundance, laughter, and beauty, smiling and kindness, the attractiveness of all of this is flowing forth from my body, from my words, from my eyes, to such a degree that I know that everyone who sees me and everyone that I see sees the face of God. That everyone that I hear and everyone who hears me hears the melody of the universe singing to their heart. That everyone that I touch and everyone who touches me is healed of all, body, mind, and soul. I lay claim of this truth because I know that God's truth is what is being spoken. I surrender this back into the law that always says yes. It says yes right now. And knowing it says yes, I say amen. And together we say, and so it is, and so it is.